I just, I'm not here. You don't know who I am.
We on? Got us? All right, the purpose of the meeting tonight is for the public hearing on our rate increase for the sewage treatment plant. I want to go through a few things before we get going, and there will be time for questions and answers. The first thing that we want to let everybody know is that over a year ago, we got ARP money. That ARP money totals out to $3 million. With $3 million, the city came to me with a $2 million plant upgrade over a year ago, and it ended up being over $3 million upgrade. We have taken, as a city council and everyone here, decided we wanted to spread the money of the ARP money out to everybody in the city. Our original plans was to take that money and no one would get a rate increase for this session. Unfortunately, the state came through approximately a year ago, already to be in effect, is a rate increase of a 10% rate increase every year from now on, no matter what. We do not have a choice in this. The 10% rate increase provides the sanitary board with a money to continuously build up, and eventually, if it's not used, it would fund projects like this. The money would have built up. If we wouldn't have took the $2 million, if I wouldn't have approached the interregional government and got a $296,000 grant, or $869,000 grant, then we would be going up quite a bit, 20 to 25, wouldn't you say, Todd?
Yeah.
Per person, per household. With this money that we got from the interregional government and the $2 million that the city has set aside for this project, you're going to get a rate increase of approximately $5.
Actually, Mayor, it's $4.74 on the average bill.
Okay. So instead of a $25 to $30 rate increase, you're going to be paying a $4.75-ish rate increase. Does anybody want to make any comments or question anything? I've got Todd and Todd both here, so we can get the questions answered right now.
That's on the minimum bill you're talking about, $4, right?
No, actually, the minimum bill is only going up $3.02, which is 2,000 gallons or less. So anybody that uses 2,000 gallons or less, their bill will go up $3.02. The average user uses approximately 3,400 gallons, and that's the state standard. So when we talk about average bills, we're talking about users with 3,400 gallons. But in the city of Dunbar, we do have a 2,000 gallon minimum. So, and the majority of the residential customers, or not the majority, but a large percentage of the residential customers use the 2,000 gallons or less minimum. Anybody that's lives by themselves, or maybe just two people, you may not go much over the 2,000, but it is a $3.02 increase on the minimum bill. Now, people that use, if you have a large family and use a lot of water, your bill could go up more than that, but it's based on how much water you use. And like the mayor mentioned, this does allow the city to establish this cash working reserve fund. That's the requirement that the state legislatures passed, and then the Public Service Commission adopted this general order that says that sanitary boards and municipalities and public service districts have to generate on an annual basis 12.5% of their operating expenses. And will stay within the city. It's not money that you pay, it's not an expense, but it has to be accumulated in this cash working capital reserve, and that's really why we're increasing rates. That was not in effect when the city council adopted its last ordinance back in 2018. This is a new mandate. Before, if you had the money, you could stick it in the account and you don't have to fund it anymore. But in February of 2020, the Public Service Commission mandated that this money be generated on an annual basis, put in an account, and it has annual reporting. It's not just a surplus money that the city or the sanitary board can do anything with. We have to document it and file it, an attachment with the annual report that shows how much money we're putting in there. If we spend money out of it, we have to detail what the expenditures were, and it just keeps utilities in a better financial standing. Before, utilities would usually be broke and not paying their bills when they had to do a rate increase. But by establishing this cash working reserve, you are generating excess money that's put in that account.
And it can't be used for salaries, correct?
Can be used. It's basically anything that's not a budgeted item. If it's an extraordinary expense, the PSC unfortunately hasn't given exact rules on what the money can be spent on, other than we have to file an annual report showing if we did spend money out of it. It's the sanitary board's money, and it will defer future. I know this is painful right now, but by passing this increase and generating the surplus money, it will allow the utility to maybe push down the road any future increase. And especially if you have to address a project, like the mayor mentioned, the city was able to fund part of a project, and if we had to go on the market right now and borrow that $3 million, like the mayor mentioned, I mean, you were looking at a 20 or 25% increase as opposed to the 10 that we're getting right now.
Did you say 10% a year though?
Yes.
Well, no, the rates aren't going to go up 10% a year.
No, it's going to stay the same. This 10%
The-
will stay, correct?
The funding of that account is continued every year. So but by passing this rate ordinance, it will allow us to have money to fund that every year.
But it's 10% this year, so like you said, the minimum charge is going up $3.02.
Yes.
And next year it'll be 10% on top of that.
No.
No, it's a one-time, it's a reoccurring account.
Yeah, it will, the $3 on the minimum bill will allow the sanitary board to fund this on an annual basis. So,
I thought this proposal had multiple increases.
It does,
Okay.
but it's not 10% every year.
What are
For
the
the 2 years,
others?
it's 2%.
yeah, the way the ordinance is drafted right now, there is a 10% increase that goes in effect 45 days after passage. It also sets for 2 additional steps. 2 years from now, which will be July 1st of 2024, the rates will go up 2%. July 1st, 2026, which is 4 years from now, the rates will go up an additional 2%.
Why do we need those increases in here now? If this is
Well,
going
We are trying to anticipate future inflationary pressures on the system, and it's easier to pass an ordinance that has set steps as opposed to coming back every time that we need it and trying to pass an additional ordinance. And that's consistent with what the city of Dunbar did in 2018. When you passed the ordinance back in 2018, it initially raised the rates a certain percentage, and then there were 2 additional steps that were 2% that went into effect July 2020, and then in 2022, which is next month,
So what will happen to that increase? Are we gonna
that
take
increase will be taken off the
That's
table.
one off the table.
Yes.
So what happened?
Well, no, actually, the 2%, if council doesn't pass this ordinance, the rates will still go up 2%
In July.
in July. That's preset. Now, the 10% is not 10.
Did we already have that wrote in the ordinance?
Yes, that was passed in 2000.
But you're saying if we pass this, that 2% step will,
The 2% step will drop and it'll be a 10% increase. It's not 10% on top of 2%.
okay. And if we pass this with just the step 1, 10%, does that make us compliant with the law? If we take the other 2 steps out right now? I know that's not gonna make you happy, but will it make us compliant with the law?
I mean, technically, you will be in
Yes.
compliance, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
2% a year for 5 years.
Larry's early, if we're not right.
I'm just curious,
I don't understand.
rate wise, are we in line with other cities or counties or?
Actually, we're on the lower end.
We're on the
Looking off-
lower end?
looking off
Yeah,
down.
even if you do have an increase, the most similar or the closest utility would be the West Dunbar Public Service District. Their rates, even after, if you pass this ordinance and increase the rates, the $4.74, you would still be about $6 a month below their rate. I mean, every rate is designed on the factors that affect the utility, but your rates are comparable to similar sized utilities. I mean, some are higher, some may be lower, but it's not,
Is it like, is it a certain percentage per gallon or 100 gallons or? I mean, I never do, I'm just curious.
yeah, I mean, it's going to increase the rate per charge 10%, which the more water you use, the bigger your bill is. But, I mean, the average customer, the average residential customer that uses 3,400 gallons, the rate will go up $4.74. Now, the step 2 and step 3 rates are being considered in this ordinance. The minimum bill will go up 66 cents in 2 years. And 2 years after that, 2026, it'll go up 68 cents. So you're looking at on the minimum bill, a $3.02 increase now, and then a 66 cent increase in 2 years, and then a 68 cent increase after that.
Why can't they just do it 10% every year for 5 years? That way it won't be so hard on everybody. Average inflation is 8%, you're going to hit 10% right off the bat. That's a big step for a lot of people that's living on fixed incomes.
If I wouldn't have gave the $2.5, $3 million, we would be going up 25%.
And a lot of people move, do probably.
I understand, and I'm trying, we have set up here and beat our heads together because it's a requirement by the state, one. And we try to keep everybody from going through rate increases by doing what we did with the ARP money, so that we didn't get, and this came out of the blue for us. I mean, we never expected it.
A lot of blue, too.
Yeah, and,
10% is a big jump just for one bill, right? And then now there's another 4% coming. That's 14% in 4 years. That's a pretty big jump. And the water company, they're just constantly asking for more rates. Right now, Scott, my sanitary bill is gonna be higher than my water bill. When this goes through, I'm gonna be paying more to get the flush the commode than I am to fill it. That just don't make sense to me. How can sewer water be worth more than fresh water? And that's what, I paid the minimum $29.74 on my sanitary bill. My water bill's $32. Now I'm gonna be paying more for sewer. When I was growing up, the sanitary bill was $1.10 for every 20 water bill. So it's just like a lot of the entanglements, red tape that the city, the state are throwing at everybody to pay these ridiculous bills. And I know that everything's going up, chlorine, whatever y'all need, but it just 10% in one whack is pretty steep. I'm gonna minimum, you think a family's got 5 kids struggling, and their water bill's gonna go from 75 to 125? I just feel sorry for people.
I've spoken with several of those systems, they're doing the same thing, 10% increases.
It's just steep. I mean, how'd you like, you got a phone call tomorrow, your insurance going up 10% for you and all your kids? Just 10% like that. Or,
City is, our elders are up, what, 5% just last month?
my social security goes up 2% a year.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all feeling it, it's just.
Yeah, it's just not a good time. It is. And there's not, I think this place to be packed when I come down here. People just don't have, they just give up. They don't want to come down here and just know that their words are being nice.
Does the law the legislature passed, does it have a timeline for this to be implemented?
It was enacted in 2015, and the law took effect, I think it was May 15, 2015. The way the PSC construed it is, as Todd indicated, it used to just be if you needed $100 to meet it, you could just put $100 in that account and you would be fine. Based on what they said in 2020 is it has to be factored in there every year. So if you were looking from the time to start forward, it would have been early January of 2020.
So another 10% on late fees, people can't afford it. So it just goes up from 10% to 20%. A lot of people can't afford their bills, they gotta pay 10% more within about a week after the due date. I don't know how they work with these people, but man, it's just a lot of money. And the city of Dunbar is taking more money now than they have in the history of the city. With their extra penny on taxes, all the surcharges on every utility bill I got, it's got a Dunbar surcharge on it. You got the Shawnee complex supposed to bring all this money to Dunbar. Don't hear nothing about it now. You heard a lot about it when they were building. All the hotels are supposed to be packed, and hotel taxes are what, 14%? I don't know, that's a lot of money the city's taking in. And I know a lot of it's going into raises.
We ain't getting no money from the Shawnee Park, none. Zero.
In that city
Unless,
limits?
no, sir,
It's not in the city limits?
no, sir. Shawnee Park, the city limits west of Dunbar, it stops at the rec center and its sewage treatment plant. There's an angle through there.
I didn't know, I figured there's more money coming in.
But it's not the money coming in, and we don't have but one hotel right now that's working. The other hotel's in the process of redesign and renaming. Whenever we get that in, then hopefully it'll bring in some more money.
Is the city hurt for money, Scott?
We're not hurting, don't get me wrong. And we are not anywhere near 1,000% financed either.
Can we look for more raises in the city fees? We just went in 2 years or 3 years ago and give money for the fire department retirement fund.
Right.
So they put no money in my retirement fund.
I understand. And believe me, whenever we took over this group here, right here, we said we were going to try to keep from raising anybody's rates. When the state comes in and says you have to, we're stuck. Like I said, I took $2,869,000 and put it to this project so that we wouldn't go up. Because if I took that much money and I went and financed that project, which I could have very easily done, and kept that $3 million to try to do something else with, then I would have been passed on a $20, $25 monthly bill or more than what your monthly bill is. So this whole group up here took this money and put it into that project so that nobody's bills would go up. And then the state came through and got us. Yes, sir, Larry.
We appreciate, what you did there. Hypothetically, is there a large percentage that's not being collected? I'm just curious.
What do you mean? Money-wise for the sewage treatment plant?
People defaulting and not paying. Is there a large percentage? I'm curious.
Jennifer?
I'm not sure of the percentage, but of course, we do have that. We battle that. We send those to collection, those accounts to collection, it's a battle.
What, may I ask what the consequences are for non-payment? I know if you
They
get
can
your
guard-
water shut, you get your water shut off if it's water, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, those people that go into collection do get their wages garnished if we can find them, if the attorney can find them, not us. And, you know, we try to get our money that way.
They're renters. So when they rent, then they get your utilities turned off, then they moved on, and it's hard to find those renters.
Yeah.
You know,
They have the
this
same problem in the
is just
Blissville.
an idea, and it's probably common everywhere, non-payment. But, you know, we need some kind of a legal resource against these owners of the property.
Right.
Because, you know, unfortunately, well, I'm not saying unfortunately, we grew up here. I'm not saying that. We grew up here in Dunbar.
Right.
Dunbar, you know, years ago was owned by moms and dads, and now that
And it's sad, these
everybody
homeowners
passed away, and, you know.
don't really care. We go after them too. We go
Nobody
after,
cares.
we go after, I don't know if sanitary does, but the city goes after the homeowner. When
They
the renter
should.
skips out, we go after them.
They should.
We try, but we're governed by the Public Service Commission. You all aren't. So we have to follow those rules. And that's why we collect deposits, to try to recoup some of that we can apply toward the final bill if they skip out. But again, it's just, you know, a battle trying to
It
keep
is.
track of everyone when they move on.
I mean, I've noticed stuff just last week or so coming down to our end, you know, there's several homes, I guess you're just ready.
Getting ready to be torn down hopefully in the next few weeks.
And I could appreciate, you know, that, but I was just curious as far as the homeowners, what recourse legally that you can hold them accountable rather than just slapping them.
We do.
And maybe get.
We do on our side,
Yeah, that, I wonder
yes.
what magnitude, you know.
And we take it to
The
court.
empty houses in Dunbar just keep getting more and more. The kids inherit
don't want
their
it.
parents.
Yeah, they won't.
Parents are died, they inherited, they run it out until it ain't nothing but a piece of junk. And then the homeless take over. They come in there and tear it all to pieces or burn it. And
Well, that's what brought my question, you know, as far as the delinquency, you know, and what legal, again, legal resource. Okay, thank you.
One more question. Ask us at the last council meeting, and Matt didn't have the exact answer. I was waiting for you on. Like you said, we used to just put money in. Now the state's requiring a rate, rate increase to cover rather than us just putting the money in. What is the recourse if we just want to put the money in? I don't know anybody about, I have a real problem with the legislature telling us how to run our sanitary. That's just me. We could dump the $180,000 if we needed to and prevent the rate increase, but that's not going to, satisfy the law. So what's the recourse?
Well, the problem is that when you passed the rate ordinance back in 2018, this wasn't even a part of the rate scenario that was designed at that time. So the rates that were passed back in 18 didn't allow for funding of approximately $175,000 a year into this fund. So technically, you're violating your covenants because you're not generating the money that's required to fund that account. Had the city known that at that time, it would have probably passed a rate ordinance that had rates higher to fund that account. But
So we've got away with it this long, basically?
well, yes, you got away with it because when it was passed, let me restate that, when it was passed in 2015, if you had the money in an account, you could actually just fund that and stick the money in an account, and you never had to make any more contributions to it. You didn't have to charge rates to generate any extra money. Now, the Public Service Commission in 2020 revised that language to say that you have to generate that on an annual, ongoing basis at 12.5% of your operating expense. So we don't have that surplus in the rates right now. If we did, we wouldn't have to pass a rate.
But it specifically says it has to come from the rates, from the increase. The
Well-
city can't pick that 12% up.
It's my understanding it has to, the sanitary board has to operate with the revenues that the sanitary revenues generate. It can't be, utilize any city money or anything like that. We have to generate the money through rates, and if we don't have the necessary cash flow to fund that on an annual basis, we have to look at raising the rates to do that. Now, I guess in theory, if we had several $1 million in the bank, the sanitary board, it could fund the account with money that it has on hand, but the language says that it'll be generated through rates. I mean, if the city tried to borrow money now, or even if we tried to get a forgivable loan of some type, by us being in violation of that requirement, I mean, we would have to come back at some point and raise the rates to do it.
What would get deemed honest is where they go. Because what do we get caught on its audit? That's where, so when the auditor comes in and looks at it, he's gonna look at, that would be a finding that the rates are generated, what you get to on the cash work. That's most, and also, I don't know how many this, probably subdivides this year, just this issue that they're having an increased rate for this cash working capital. And a lot of folks have tried creative ways to try to get around it, using B&O tax money, municipal sales tax money, and it's just, you can do a Band-Aid temporarily, but then ultimately, it's going to come to an audit. That's what's going on with getting caught. The terminology.
Nobody likes it, but
I have a question. Now, will this money from the rate increase go into an account just for Dunbar's use? Or will it go into a community pot for other cities or municipalities or whatever? Ours only. But if it's used, part of it, it's, just keeps building. What's in there will just keep building.
Yes.
It does.
Let me just make something clear, a lot of people do know this, that the city of Dunbar and our sanitary is two different.
We share no money, no employees.
Right.
We're.
It's like two different businesses.
Yes, in two separate entities.
I think what the intended later on down the road is if we haven't touched this money, we had another $2 million project, we wouldn't have to borrow the money. That money's gonna be in hand. No more rate.
That's what I was wondering.
Well, that's all about 10 years from now, though, so that doesn't be today.
I agree.
I mean, that's, we understand just behind it, it'll make it any easier to swallow.
Todd, is there any other way of doing a different rate, like 8%, 3%, 2%, or anything like that we can do?
I mean, it'd be my recommendation that since we got this ordinance in motion right now, we've already had a first reading.
Right. Leave it the same.
It would delay
Delay the 45 days, right? Anybody else have anything? All right. We'll call this, we'll adjourn this meeting. Now on to finance. Trade seats.